But I ask because,
Yeah.
do you feel like you're part of a new establishment that's being created?
I don't think I'm part of a new establishment. I think it would be pretty difficult to look at these podcasts. I know it's a popular thing right now, especially in certain media circles, to say that after running an incredibly unpopular candidate who was introduced very late in the race because an elderly man who could not be the president, who everyone told was functioning as the president for 4 years, decided to, this wind is wild, huh?
Yeah.
See? But this was a very specific circumstance in which Kamala Harris ran for the presidency.
Yeah.
She was somewhat unpopular, and she was not a star in Democratic politics before this at all. And her communication strategy was pretty weak. I think most people have admitted that. So to hang this defeat all on a few podcasts and to say that they were the problem, I just don't buy the narrative. So I don't think I'm a new establishment. If you weigh, again, a few comedians with podcasts versus all of the people that supported Kamala Harris, Democrat donors, billionaires, big people, if the idea is that me and a few comedians have more power than multi-billionaires, huge media institutions, a whole political party apparatus, I just don't think most people are going to buy that. I think it seems like a great way to excuse running an unpopular candidate on a platform that American people weren't sold on.
I think
This was a pretty insane response. If you are conservative or right-leaning, you probably don't realize it because you got lost in his words. He said some things that you probably agree with, and you felt like, yeah, he's sticking it to the man and telling mainstream media, blah, blah, blah. Right? But because you were distracted by his words and you were listening to him out of context, you don't recognize he went to another galaxy on this question. He was asked a specific question, and this guy went so far out of bounds of what he was asked, right? But again, if you just taking what he's saying, you're like, oh, and Kamala wasn't popular, and then this and that, and then all these billionaires donate, and you're like, yeah, that's true, that's true, that's true, that's true. But again, context. What was the question being asked, and how is that relevant to what he's saying? He was asked about, are you the new establishment? She even went deeper than that, and she said, becoming. She talks about that this is where things are headed, that you're becoming, I think is the word that she used. So she's talking about now, what's happening now, and what is around the corner in terms of where things are headed. This dude went all the way back to 2024 about a question that's asked about now. Are you now, today, as we sit, part of a new establishment? He's talking about Kamala and billionaires and whatever. And it gets worse. It gets worse. I'm going to let him say some more stuff, and then I'm going to dig in and show you how ridiculous this guy is being right now.
even beyond politics, though, even beyond the question of the election. Like, again, I know the liberal Joe Rogan conversation is so dominant, and I think not nuanced enough. But there is power in a massive audience.
There's absolutely power in a massive audience, but if you're saying that that power is equal to the CIA or all of these other people that have been very critical of President Trump, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that the power that Theo Von has would be equal to the intelligence agencies or these massive legacy media institutions seems crazy.
But
Let me tell you what's actually crazy. First of all, it's like a straw man. Who was part of the old establishment could we put all the power on? Right? Pick anyone in the old establishment. Let's say Nancy Pelosi. Is Nancy Pelosi, or was she more powerful than the CIA and and the FBI and all of these different organizations and the deep state? Was that one woman? Like, is that how the establishment works? You have this kind of, Trump is a little bit of an outlier in that case, but everybody else, it's a group effort, right? When people say the deep state, right, that little childish boogeyman, they're not talking about a one person. I'm pretty sure you question them, they would say there's no one member of the deep state that's like more powerful than everything else. Like, what is this? This is like Trump brain, right? I guess he's coming from the perspective of Trump. Like, nobody else is like Trump. Trump is running the entire party, the entire Congress. The basically on the GOP side are all like bowing to him, right? But that's not how it works for anybody else. So her accusing him of being the mainstream, the new mainstream, it's irrelevant whether he's more powerful than. Being part of the mainstream doesn't mean you're more powerful than the rest of the mainstream. It means you're part of the mainstream, right? And when Joe Biden was in power, if you believe in the boogeyman, whatever, then you would say the mainstream who was in power? Who was in power? Biden, right? Then who was in our government? He was the top of our government. Who was in our government? CIA, okay, so that's part of that mainstream. FBI, okay, that's part of that mainstream, right? And you can go on and establish whatever deep state you want to, and you say, well, this is all the mainstream, but no one person is more powerful than. So why is he stuck on this more powerful than scenario, right? Anyone from the previous mainstream, they had people that were part of the mainstream that were more powerful than them, right? The power comes from the group. Now, beyond that, when he says, am I more powerful than the CIA? Dude, you are on the Trump side. Trump is in power. Trump has complete control of Congress, right? And now he's trying to control the Supreme Court, right? So what does that mean? That means necessarily the CIA, right? Trump has his cabinet where he has top-level people. He fired a bunch of people so he could have his loyalists at tops of across our government. So who's the head of the CIA? If not part of the clan that you're part of? Hence, the new establishment. Who was at the top of the FBI? Somebody that your tribe appointed, right? So therefore, you are part of the team that is controlling the CIA, controlling the FBI, controlling the executive branch. You're part of the team that has government control. You are now the deep state, right? You have the richest man in the world that was running around basically shutting down departments. He was, towering over the president of the United States. This president's sitting down, he's standing over the president, got his son, boogers on the table, right? That is part of your group. Joe Rogan has billionaires coming into his podcast just saying whatever, and he's sitting there smiling and giggling. Like, this is the mainstream, right? Because they are all connected to power. They're all connected to the government. They are the ones in control right now. You are the government. And that's the thing. When you say mainstream, in terms from a media perspective, so the way CNN and MSNBC kind of operate is really a capitalistic thing. But if we want to get down to super, super crude level, basic level, we could look at them as they were part of the mainstream because they were sort of pushing the mainstream narrative. So, Joe Biden is pushing out some kind of narrative. CNN and MSNBC, they challenge him for sure. But on a lot of things, they kind of go along with the program. They're not being too aggressive about a lot of things because it's kind of like they're part of the establishment, right? Which is kind of like what we see happening right now, right? There's outliers, but generally speaking, Trump has been allowed to do so much. And all we hear from the right-wing media ecosystem of which you're part of is cheerleading and how great he is and he's the greatest president and yeah, we're winning and this and that and oh, the poor liberal, whatever, right? You're basically state media is what you guys have become, right? Whatever it is that the very elites, right? Whatever the deep state is, because again, they have full control of the government, so the new deep state is Trump and MAGA, right? So whatever narrative they want to push out there, oh, we got to cut fraud and waste. That's the government narrative. We hear it echoed from Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Newsmax, Tim Pool, everyone's like, yeah, we got to cut the fraud and waste. Repeating exactly what the government is saying, what the establishment is saying, right? You are now part of that group that is in power. You're in power. And it's so strange because I think MTG, you know, she was one of the first ones to have this cognitive dissonance because I think she was the one who says that we need to fire the federal workers. And we're like, lady, do you know what you do for a living? Right? And somebody else in the GOP was talking about, what did she say? Something about these politicians something or the government something. And we're like, you're the government. These people are insane. Like when they're out of power, oh, Biden's ruining the country. He's going to destroy socialism. And inflation. Things are expensive because of Biden. Then they get in power. And for 100 days, it's like, now you're in charge. So now let's look at what's happening. And let's put it on you now. No. Oh, all this happening now is because of Biden. Biden did this and then socialism. Wait, so when you're out of power, Biden is socialism. And now that Biden's out of power and you're in power, Biden is socialism. Like, wait, what? That's how it works. And so now that you're the establishment and you're being called out on it, now, oh, that's crazy talk? Right? So when the people who were doing what you're doing now, right? And he would say, no, I don't agree with everything Trump says. You know, I said I disagree with it. You think CNN agrees with everything that Joe Biden did? You think MSNBC? You think anyone in mainstream media agrees with everything that Joe Biden does? You're only going to find that in independent media. There are independent partisan propaganda networks that literally, they agree with everything that the party says. Not CNN and not MSNBC. MSNBC exposed Joe Biden and Tara Reid. Had Joe Biden speechless, didn't know what to say. They called him out. CNN called out Nancy Pelosi, had her getting all upset and like, how dare you, and right? They don't agree with every single thing the Democrats do. It's just that for most of the things they agree with, and they just repeat back their rhetoric and go along and cheerlead. That's what you guys are doing now. You guys are behaving like the establishment used to behave before. But somehow you can behave like they were, but not get the label of establishment. So when they were doing what you're doing, oh, establishment, deep state. Now you're in power. Now you're part of the establishment. Now you're in league with all these billionaires going to the White House and bragging about how many billions of dollars they're making. Now you're in that league of power. Now you don't want to own that label. Now you want to be like, oh, that's ridiculous. How can we be like, what? Is this dude just that stupid, or does he think his audience is that stupid? That's the ultimate question. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate Me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. What in the hell?